I couldn't just be a service provider, provide the massage, and then be done. Like, I had to do something that was more transformative for the clients. And
why did you feel that need?
well, I mean, basically, it was kind of like if I was going to be a rapper, I was going to be Eminem.
Okay.
Like,
So you wanted excellence.
If I'm gonna do stand up, I'm gonna like work at this and blow the fucking roof off the place. Like, mastery was a big deal for me personally. Okay. Like, that was just how I felt about things. So, and for you with your back, do you find it's like, is it lower than say where my feet are, or higher than that?
As far as
like you talked about, like tension and stuff is usually further up here.
Most of the tension was kind of up in this, like that's your trap
up in that area,
and the shoulders. Yeah.
But then how's this through here?
That, as far as it was releasing, I could feel the tension in that area releasing, letting go, but it didn't feel like the tension was stored there. It felt like it was elsewhere. And that was just kind of letting it go as that elsewhere was releasing.
How's that right there?
Sorry?
Did you head too far back right there? That looks like it's a little bit too much. Double that up. So, for me, it was like, did we talk about Jiro Dreams of Sushi last time?
Yeah, I actually watched it afterwards.
Oh, really? What'd you think?
Yeah.
Dude, wasn't it awesome? Dude, it's because it's sushi. It's such a, you're like, it's a piece of sashimi, what's the big deal? And they're like, no. This dude dedicated his life
to a 15-minute experience. Like, that was the crazy thing. He's like, we don't do appetizers, I don't serve drinks. Like, you come in and you eat this sushi and that is it. Like, this is the moment. Wow.
Yeah.
He was, I imagine that guy is probably pretty intense to be around, but what a magical craft.
My counselor in particular, it's funny. Every time he comes up, because I talk about it, my counselor always talk about he'll always kind of mention the way it hurt his relationships or his connections with his kids, or like he has a tendency as a counselor to fixate on that side.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? but he mastered.
Yeah. I mean, there's a cost for that kind of dedication, right? I mean, that guy has a routine that is uninterrupted on a daily basis to achieve that level of mastery. Like, everything else comes second, which is amazing for what he's doing.
And I think it's hard, like, with I love my counselor very much, but everything about his counseling charts towards mediocrity in the suburbs. And like, I'm like, no. I'm trying for greatness. Yeah. Like, this is not whatever I choose to do.
Yeah.
Like, I wrote a post last night because I was complaining about prepackaged mixed drinks, like in a can. You know how they make the like hard seltzer in a can? I'm like, why don't you just make a hard seltzer?
Yeah.
Like, bitters and some booze, and make a homemade margarita is not that complicated. But it's like everybody wants the convenience of just getting it out of a can, and you start to lose this sort of artisan. Anyway, it's just me being me. So, long story short,
that's what makes the world beautiful, though, is the people that dedicate the time to craftsmanship and artistry. Like, excellence is noticeable.
And within my industry specifically, I hate to say this, I don't think a lot of it exists.
A lot of excellence?
No, it's not excellence. Mastery. So I don't want massage therapists to see this and be like, screw this guy, he's saying there's no excellence. What I mean is, increasingly, many massage therapists, when I roll over your shoulder blade right there, is that uncomfortable?
No, but I can feel that little click in there. But
it's fine. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't hurting skin. I think increasingly, it's like they're service providers instead of creating space to be artists. My work went completely nuts when I had my own home studio for the first time years ago to rental. And I decided to go crazy, which was 2-hour mat-based sessions only.
Why was that crazy at the time?
Because nobody did that.
Okay.
Like,
what was the standard?
Being a massage therapist who doesn't use a massage table is like, wait, what? Like, that doesn't...
So it wasn't just the time, it was the fact that you were not using a table.
Yes.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, hold on. So the client comes in my case, I'm trying to solve a problem. I'm trying to be a master plumber, a master electrician, like just help them solve the problem and draw the clients who, like, in other words, Jiro Ono is not worried about competition.
Yeah.
Their conveyor belt sushi is a block away.
Yeah.
He's like, cool. And it's like, and he doesn't spend his time like conveyor belt sushi is crap, or whatever. He's just like, oh yeah, they just provide a different thing than I do.
Yeah, it's like Picasso and Andy Warhol competing for the same space. Like they're both artists, but it's not gonna.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a shit.
And it's like, and it also depends on like, well, what's your style?
Yeah.
What do you like? What do you ascribe to? So, for me, it wasn't just delivering a service, and it wasn't like a codification. What really started to happen was the more I practiced, the more the sessions became completely improvisational. So I would freak out about something like Jiro Dreams of Sushi because essentially it was that same sense of Asian mastery. Mr. Miyagi, the Asian master.
Samurai.
The samurai zen, but his was in sushi, but in America, what did I have as a massage therapist as like that guy, this person, that lady laid the foundation of what my work was becoming. Basically, you were trying to develop a new art form, especially that didn't exist in the West.
Yeah.
So Pichette is a master in Thailand. And I would read stuff about him, and
Master of Thai massage.
Thai massage, yes, just like renowned, world renowned. If there's anybody who's a master currently, it's Pichette. So, Pichette, in stuff that I would read, they'd go, like people from the West would go study with him, and they would kind of freak out because they'd go, but he doesn't teach a sequence, and I'm like, he's Pichette. Of course, he doesn't fucking teach a sequence. A sequence? Like, are you like? Because here's the deal. Jiro would like slice the fish at a different size depending on the person's mouth to try to give them the just perfect bite.
Yeah.
And I was like blown away.
But there's not a one size fits all experience.
Yes. And the thing is, especially because, you and I are interacting in relationship, I'm in a situation where, let's say, as a client, this is an example. You come in, and I'm fairly certain you just want to let go. It's 3 hours of Zen.
Yeah.
I don't say shit.
Yeah.
Now, I did notice after COVID, the clients were much more chatty.
Really?
But it's because everybody had been so socially isolated, they were just so excited to just have a conversation with someone in person. That they would, talk for 3 hours, and for me as well, that was an issue. Meaning, I had been socially isolated as well, so I wanted, some conversation. I customize the service depending on where the students want to go. I've seen students look at video and they're like, I don't understand. Robert just talks the whole time, and I'm like, I'm aware that this is being recorded. This isn't what, the moves are essentially the same.
Yeah.
But the session can be completely different depending on the client.
And when you're recording, it changes your behavior.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's also a manifestation. Like when you contacted me, I thought it was so funny. You're like, hey, why don't we just record and then you could just use it as a podcast?
Yeah.
I've thought about doing this before, but how many clients actively want this?
Yeah. I'm a weirdo in the fact that I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can imagine not everybody wants to have that conversation and session shared.
Yeah.
So, but it seems like to me, it's a very natural thing because like our first conversation, there's talk about the experience that's going on and communication back and forth, but we got into these weird conversations about like, what was it, Lucas Joyner and who was the other kind of like emo rap. I'm trying to remember who it was.
Lil Peep.
Lil Peep and
Juice WRLD.
Yeah. And so those are so random, but it's fun and interesting, and that's what kind of made me think of it. I was like, man, that was just we covered a lot of ground. It's kind of fascinating, and I got a new show to watch, the Hero Loves Sushi.
Yeah.
That was great. I watched it literally like, I don't know if I watched it that night or the next night, but I was blown away. I was like, wow, that was a solid recommendation.
Yeah, it's one of my top 10 like documentaries, kind of films. It's
You know
just,
anybody that's ever gone there?
not in person.
Be an interesting experience.
The stuff I would hear about Pichette, they'd say he doesn't use a sequence, and I'm like, of course he doesn't use a sequence. And then it was like I'd watch him like in video, because I've done my stuff long enough to like, I see what you're doing, you little booger, I see what you're doing. And in his older years, he's gotten into this thing, and he would call it no sweat style. Because in early time massage, from like intro Thai, there's a lot of stretching and mobilization. A lot of like
the client.
Yeah, like you're compared to a normal massage, for instance, like you're picking people up and moving them around and stretching. Like some massage therapists will see the work and go, oh, that looks like a lot of work. So Pichette was doing this no sweat style, and I would watch him, and I was like, I see what he's doing there. And over time, because I'm in the West, and because I had no teacher, fundamentally, like I had enough of the rudiments from my original teacher to like continue going. It was kind of like she taught me scales, but she didn't teach me how to improvise.
Yeah.
She couldn't. I just wasn't in enough confidence and enough mastery of the art yet to get there. So I just kept playing those scales, but then you realize that when you went on that C scale, then you threw like a weird note in. Like you knew the scale, but you're like, well, let's try sharp here and see what happens. Let's try flat over here. Let's play this one note a little longer.
Yeah.
And it was like you started crafting the art to be able to figure out what worked best for you and the clients. And the more I adapted it to my body, the more I and to me, it looked very, very similar to what Pichette was doing.
When you say you adapted more of what to your body, like your style to like how you felt, or?
Yeah. So, for instance, I'll teach something in class where I'll generally say, hey, we're taking their knee towards their opposite shoulder, like you're crossing the body. Then we're going to take the knee towards the same shoulder. I always got one fly in here. I don't know why. Anyway. The deal is, when I'm lifting somebody's leg and moving their leg, I'm just mobilizing the joint to try to assess where there's a movement restriction. I can mobilize to here, I can mobilize to here, I can mobilize to here, like if you think about a clock. I can go to 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
And the students will go, well, but how do you know where to? I'm like, you have to feel and you have to communicate with the client. And I'm like, oh, because I want a sequence.
Yeah.
Like,
they want the known.
Like if Jiro, was like, make the sushi this way.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the rice? What's the fish? What's the accoutrements? What's the wasabi? What's the soy? Like,
there's so many variables. There's
exactly.
not a one size fits all.
And it's like, and I'm asking questions from a place of no knowledge.
Yeah.
So I give students sequences and keep telling them to use them until they just break them down.
It's just like the scales, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just jazz. I grew up an hour away from New Orleans.